Best regards, Professor Lara. I owe myself to carry out my activity for Unit 3. How would this story end? 3 years ago, Joe met Susan at a party. She was beautiful, intelligent, and rich. Every day he went to her house. He bought her flowers and chocolates. But she was interested. He gave an expensive gift, but she still wasn't interested. One day Joe asked Susan to marry him, but she said no. He left her house very upset. He went home and cried. He didn't think he could have loved another woman. He thought about Susan all the time. And was later he met a woman named Ashley. Joe fell in love immediately. Ashley was everything he wanted and she wanted to be with Joe. He knew it was the real thing and he finally stopped thinking about Susan. One day Joe and Ashley went out for a drive in the near sport car. Susan saw them from the house. At that moment Susan fell in love with Joe, but her love for him came too late. Joe didn't love her anymore. When Susan saw them she decided to win Joe back, and she was going to her best to get him to notice her again. But this was going to be difficult. One day Susan decided to go to visit Joe to see how he was doing when she saw him. She took the initiative to greet him with a kiss on the cheek, but Joe avoided her, shook her hand to greet her. The conversation was cold and distant, where she realized that it was going to be difficult to get his attention again. She spent days and days thinking about what to do and planned a party at her house again, where she created a plan to conquer Joe. She only invited him, some friends, and her best friend who was supporting her in this plan. When he arrived, forced by a mutual friend, he sat on the sofa in the living room, where he saw everyone having fun at the party. When he saw that Susan was alone, he immediately sat down next to her and started talking to her. On several occasions, but he upon noticing this strategy immediately stopped her and made clear to her that he no longer felt anything for her, that just was in the past. This contempt made by Joe Farrell increased her interest in him to the point of becoming obsessed, taking him as a challenge for her life. Joe decided to go one step further with Ashley and propose marriage. When Susan found out, she could she couldn't stand it and decided to do everything possible to end that relationship. And so she stayed with Joe, since her obsession was beyond incredible. One day, she made an appointment to talk to him at the best restaurant in the city because she needed to to tell him something important. It was urgent, life or death. And Joe, because of the great affection he had for her. Decided to go talk to her. When they talked for a while, Susan carelessly kissed him on the mouth, where she left Joe surprised, and not knowing what to do at the moment his friends arrived. She saw him kissing on the mouth. Susan upset she slapped him and left the place. Susan smiled. When she saw the scene, she thought that she had already fulfilled her purpose of finally separating them. But what she didn't know was that at the scene there was a relative of just fans who saw everything that had happened. She acted as if she had not been to blame and apologized for what had happened, but she had already made trouble, and Joe had gone after her blood. Apparently, everything was going to end. Ashley broke off her engagement. Susan was happy because she now had a clear path, but at the same time she didn't know what she was feeling. It was a strange sensation, but even so she didn't stop thinking that she had won the battle and the war. She was satisfied and calm about overcoming the challenge. The wedding day approached, but there was no wedding moment. Everyone was expecting that it was not going to be celebrated, but something unexpected happened. One day, the family arrived at the fence house for the celebration, but when they found out they were sad. But one of them remembered what happened in the restaurant and told them about it in front of everyone. At that moment Jo arrived. She was very sad. She didn't know what to do to continue with the wedding and she had no hope of celebrating it. But when he came to his finds, he arrived right at the moment of the story and with the help of the family member he managed to clarify everything with his beloved, where he clarified everything without a problem and with a witness on board. A solution to the problem was found and she managed to believe him and continue with the wedding date because she also wanted to marry him. She loved him. When Susan found out it was too late, she became careless because she thought that she had fulfilled her purpose. But in her delirium, she arrived at the church on the day of the wedding, where all the guests and parents were. But Susan rushed at Ashley, trying to kill her with a knife. But one of the guests managed to stop her. In the end, after the wedding, after all the events that have occurred, the wedding took place. The police were at the scene taking Susan away, who was admitted to a psychiatric clinic. Joe and Ashley manage to overcome obstacles. They lived happily ever after. Ever after.